which some of you have heard before, some of you haven't. But I've been here since 1958. I was a Methodist, died in the Bull Methodist, and when I married my husband, I knew his family was Episcopalian. His mother played the organ here, so when we came home from Virginia after 4 years in the service, his mother dragged me kicking and screaming over here. She said, "You are now an Episcopalian." So that was the end of that story. So we've been here for many years, and Ian Brown married all of my children. All of them were baptized by him. Gosh, my mind is gone. Father Cooper baptized some of my children. Ian baptized the rest, married them, and he also married our son. And so we have many, many wonderful memories. Our children were all married by Ian, maybe not in the church, but down at the community center with Ian officiating. And the story I love to tell about Ian Brown is that when we were considering having him here, and we're in Fry's in India this morning, but he was on the Bishop's committee. So was our little wonderful friend Margaret Halliday, who was a retired school teacher from Clinton Elementary School. She was a tough old broad, little but powerful. Anyway, she found out that Ian was a divorced man, and she was very upset. Well, after he preached a couple sermons here and met some of the people and gotten to know us better, she came to the Bishop's committee and said, "I don't know how a woman could be divorced from a man Ian Brown." Ian was here for 21 years.
I was baptized in St. Peter's in Tecumseh, and that's where we attended. My brother was a lay reader there. And then from there, when I went to college, I went to school, I went to church in Ann Arbor. And then in Jackson, Michigan. And then I moved to California and just came back 5 years ago. Well, I couldn't go to St. Peter's in Tecumseh because it wasn't my church. And when Ruth Crosby brought me up here, when I first came back to Tecumseh, this is my church, and it has been ever since.
In my journey in seminary, which was not an Episcopal seminary, my conclusion from my study was that the central thing I wanted to do as a clergyman was to celebrate the Holy Communion and to share with people who knew the meaning of that act. That left you, the Episcopal Church. The Episcopal Church is the result of my quest to find meaning and hope and blessing in celebrating the Eucharist and sharing it with others. My first pass here, when I lived here as a lay reader, and somebody who didn't really understand all of the ins and outs of the semi-political interpretations of what goes on here on Sunday. My first pass was, did you know that we were behind, I don't know whether it was the oil bill or the coal bill, but it was the heating. We're behind, and we need a certain amount of money, which I forget the amount. So my first task was run around and knock on the doors of some of you who are still here, and many people who are not, and ask them if they would help pay that bill, because we were facing another winter, and we wouldn't be able to get any more heat unless we paid up the bill. You took me, accepted me as a leader, while I was learning about what it meant in the Episcopal Church.
Father Ed Griswold, I was one of his first confirmation classes here in 1959. I hope he can still call me one of his own after all this time. Good grief. So proud of you, Ed. I've always been proud of you, proud that
tree, but I see some seeds that were planted that are still growing here. And I think those of you who I don't know from my time here, somebody planted a seed in you, or you wouldn't be here today. So the church's role seems to be to keep planting the seed and watering it, and they disperse and go someplace else, but we've got to keep the thing going. So Cheryl's testimony back there kind of speaks to that. And both of our kids are have come through the Episcopal Church, and Eric's up in Peterborough, Ontario, and Kayla's in Jacksonville, Florida. But you find a church wherever you go if someone keeps it going.
I was raised in Mr. Lister's house, and Mr. Lister was the first rector of this church. And so I feel a great deal of a connection to all of you, because he's just so loved the Lord. And I grew up with that feeling and knew that Mr. Lister loved the Lord, and it was all through our home. And so that's why I'm here today, is to kind of share this with you. And of course, I'm delighted to see my Aunt Ruth. And it's really nice that you're celebrating the way you are. This is a beautiful church. Thank you.
23 years ago, I was playing for the community schools over at the community center. My name is Dan Meikle, and someone, I can't remember her name, but I know y'all can tell me, she was the organist in 1987. She was about to retire. What was her name? And I knew it began with H, but I couldn't remember the rest. So thanks very much, Hendrika Fila. And she came to me and said, hey, are you interested in playing as our organist at the Episcopal Church? I said, what? So I grew up in the Methodist Church, and that's all there ever was, and all there ever is. But not anymore, I'm a Moravian. But anyway, and I said, well, sure, I guess I could. But I've never played the organ. She said, oh, it's easy. It's just the same thing, but you have another keyboard and some little pedals to play with. That sounds good. Well, I met Reverend Brown, and wow, what an awesome individual. You know, truly God's chosen for priesthood. And, you know, he took the sermon that I had experienced in the Methodist Church, where I was trying to doodle or hopefully fall asleep sitting up so that nobody recognized you drooled or bobbed your head. But Reverend Brown made the sermons interesting. I call them short, sweet, and to the point. My experience here at St. John's was awesome. And truly what God had in mind for me to begin my walk as an organist. And I've enjoyed it for 23 years. But thank you to all of you who welcomed me in as a 17-year-old Methodist who had never played the organ before and accepted and tolerated my mistakes, much more than Reverend Brown did. Because as you remember, he was quite precise, and if I didn't begin, or end right at 10 o'clock, as I glanced back there, I would get an eye that, well, you never saw it, but I did. So thank you very much for the opportunity to serve here as an organist and propel me forward for the next step. And God truly does have a plan for all of us. And maybe it's my machismo thing. Sometimes us males don't choose to listen. We think that we can do it on our own because we know the best thing. We know what's right for our family. We know what's right for ourselves. But it is truly awesome to listen to what God has to do for all of us.
I also started here in 1987, and Ian Brown married Dan and I next month would be 21 years ago, and it was memorable for us, but memorable for Susan Beisch because she had a heart attack that day. So that was, he had to scoot right after the service. So it was, and everyone here has always welcomed us and made us the family that we feel that we have, and we appreciate it.